watching AYV Television.
Now, in our final segment, in an official correspondence issued by the Ministry of Local Government and Community Affairs, dated 8th February 2023, addressed to all mayors, district chairpersons and councillors, stated that the aforementioned personalities that pursuant to Section 137 of the Local Government Act 2022, Act number 260, 2022, to vacate council on the 1st of March ahead of general and presidential and local council elections in June 2023, and instructed them to comprehensive handing over of their office to the chief administrators accordingly. So this morning, to discuss this move, we have the Deputy Minister of Local Government and Community Affairs, Melrose Kaminti, and Charles Koba, Executive Director, Forward Sierra Leone. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
We'll start with you, Madam Minister. This announcement, it has sparked a lot of debates on social media and reported on mainstream media as well. And, you know, the rationale of it, why is the ministry asking councillors, mayors to step aside ahead of the elections?
Thank you very much for having me here this morning.
And this is your first time?
No.
Ah, okay, you've been here.
But it's been a while.
Yeah, okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. This is not new, as we all know. We have been having elections, and we have been having elected officials, particularly in the councils, set aside as we approach elections. I don't know why it's even sparking up a debate, because even as recent as 2017, there is a correspondence. In fact, people have, you know, people now, they have put it on the social media that the elected officials were asked to step aside again. In fact, the one for that election, the one for that December 7th, 2017, was even worse, because you received the letter today and you are to vacate today, which is not the case with our own government and our own dispensation. What we have tried to do is to make sure that we give an ample time to be more responsible, and ask people to comprehensively, as you have read from our letter, hand over, because it is according to the law that we have, and we have just tried to make it more of a policy, more of a law, that people will know that, you know, by this and this time in any elections, because this law is for, this is 2022.
The new revised.
The new revised, yeah. That you know now that you will have to go, and that you will have time to hand it over, as opposed to before, people will just get up and say, you're going today and today. No. So for us, it's about a law, it's about a policy as a ministry to make sure that people have enough time to hand over, because that is what the law says. most elected officials will be coming back because they have done one term and they want to go back and participate in the elections. And if they are voted for, they will have to come back. So you cannot stay in the council. You will not even concentrate. You need time to go and prepare yourself, you know, and face the elections. So in the meantime, we'll have the chief administrators, we'll have other institutions that can oversee the affairs of the council, because the work of council, the work of governance has to continue.
Exactly. And these are elected officials as well. And the concern has been that vacuum that will be created. Perhaps you have just the chief administrators who will be handling the councils, the regional bodies as well. But in the interest of, you know, the nation, say these people are elected officials, did the ministry sit with them and, you know, have this understanding, say, this is what we want you to do, so that it's going to not be like the ministry is pushing them away. We're telling you to vacate, leave your seat and go.
Obviously, I mean, this is something that every elected official know about. In fact, for the mayors and chairpersons, we had a meeting. Okay. They were trying to say that they could stay and hand over
to the next person.
To the next person, or to themselves. Because if you are going to face an election, and probably you'll be the winner, and for that same council, that means you'll be handing over again to yourself. It doesn't work like that. So, in fact, what had happened was so serious that I don't know where that came from, but all throughout our consultations before we got this act, before we got the bill enacted, in our consultations, there was nothing like a transition clause that says elected officials will stay there until they hand over. But along the line, before the bill got to Parliament, we just saw it there. And that was really surprising to my minister and I. We were like, wow, we have been interacting with this document. So it's from between law officers, the consultants, the, how do you call them, the printing press, along that line. So this just came on board. And we were like, no, this is not possible. Interestingly, when it now went to Parliament, at the Legislative Committee, it was debated and they said no. Even in the well of Parliament, when it was first laid, but there are parliamentarians who vehemently kicked against it and said, no, we cannot have this. We have never had it, and it will not work, even for a level playing field. Because you know that there are other people that will be vying for that position. They also should be given an opportunity, you know. So, and interestingly, some people have even taken up some roles in their different political parties, and by what we are getting, they are even holding meetings in the councils, and you can't do that. The council is a public, you might be belonging to this political party, but for the council, it's everybody. When you are now elected, you're serving everybody in your community. So you cannot take that undue advantage over another person that also will be vying for that position. So in the face of all of this, I think it is just but fitting that people set aside, as it has been. This is not the first time.
So this has been done on precedent, or is it on best practice?
Best practice it is.
Okay. Best
practice, I would say. Because you want to give a level playing field, that is one. Secondly, you want elected officials whose terms have expired according to the law to go and now concentrate for their campaigns and all of that. These chief administrators that are taking over are like you rightly know, are administrators who the day-to-day working of the of the councils, they are the ones in charge. Even it's like the permanent secretaries that we have. There's going to come a time we will not be there. It's the permanent secretaries that will take over. It's when the new minister comes now that take over. So this is just the right thing to do, I think. Okay,
let's usher in Charles. I mean, with all of this, I mean, in clear times, what does this directive bring within the political mix at this time?
So again, I will start by referencing the law itself that created the council and made provision for dissolution of the council. And if you go back to section 137, it clearly states that the council, let me read it verbatim. All local councils shall stand dissolved at the expiration of a period of 5 years commencing from the date of the first sitting after the last general election, at any date not later than the dissolution of Parliament, in accordance with the provisions of Section 85, subsection 1 of the 1991 Constitution. So again, we make laws because we believe we want to be law-abiding and we want to be guided by provisions of legislations made by Parliament. Hence, nobody is above the law, and nobody should be seen overtly using his or her authority above what the law prescribes. So if the law says your term expires at 5 years, commencing from your very first sitting after the general elections, I think it was but fitting for the ministry to have sat and look at all the councils that emerged after the elections of 2018. Which of the councils had their term start immediately in March or in April or in May, as the case may be? Because it is prescribed by the law. And some councils started off in April ending, some in early May. And you have, but for the Freetown City Council alone, that had their first sitting in June of 2018. So you should have had a buffer, because you want to have it being done in that synchronized manner. Maybe you have a cut-off point at the point that Parliament will be dissolving. So you don't give anybody any due advantage over the others. That, okay, the Freetown City Council, because they started in June, so they are staying till June. Some are dissolving in May. You don't want that to happen. When Parliament dissolves, because the law provides for that, they can stay, but not later than the period that Parliament dissolves. So if Parliament is to dissolve, for example, in April or in May, and then you can dissolve the council altogether about the time that the Parliament is dissolving. The reason why we advance these things is because when there are laws and we think today it fits us because we are seated in authority and we use the law ultra-virusly, it will come hunting after us again when we are not there tomorrow. Any other person coming in can misuse that beyond your own level. So we're saying, once we have, all of them they dealt with this bill on several conversations and meetings, consultations. They should have looked at all of those nitty-gritties and say, okay, this could be challenging if we don't address this. Because all the councils did not take up from the same point. So
it means the law itself is not too clear on
the law is explicitly clear.
So the minister,
explicitly clear.
The minister is saying this is best practice. So there are people who've taken position in their political parties already, and this is about governance, and you need to ensure that there's a level playing field for other people who might want to come in. And looking at democracy and providing this level playing field, do you think this is best practice to ask them to set aside and allow the chief administrators to handle councils and the affairs of the administration until there is another election? Okay,
so in the first place, the 2004 prescribed 4 years, which meant they were to go down in a kind of we call it a midterm election in that case. Say, whilst the general elections will be 1 year after, so by which point you will also be preparing for the council's dissolution way ahead of time. But then because they saw that the 2004 had challenges, the ministry sat together with all the stakeholders and said, let's review or amend some portions of this act and upgrade it. In the upgrading of the law, they all agreed that it should be 5 years, and at the expiration of your 5-year term based on the first sitting. So I'm premising the provision of the law.
So even if it's a week, you should be allowed to complete your 5 years.
So because the thing is, you speak of level playing field, but let's take it from the face value. Because the Constitution provides for the president to be in power even after his election, he'll be handing over, should he win the election, he hands over to himself. Because he stays in power until he contests the election, and if he wins the election, he comes back to that office. So, but then, this is not saying you stay in power until your election. It is saying at the expiration of your first sitting date.
Okay.
It is clear. So you can also maintain the level playing field if you implement the law as it is. If they had looked at this law that it will also create some unlevel playing field, they should not have included this in the law.
Now, Charles, the new law specifically talks about decentralizations and devolution of its functions. I mean, does these directives undermine the local governance of the country?
In a way, yes, because if the laws are clear, and we all know if I come to office, say by April 2018, I should be dissolving myself at April 2023. I don't need to be told by any other authority because it is provided for in the law that by April 2023, I should vacate that office. So it's about us owning up to the principles of the law that we operate on as a state, as institutions, sub-institutions of the state. So you should not be told by any other higher authority you have to vacate. I mean, nobody tells the parliament vacate. Parliament knows at about such period, parliament should dissolve itself. They are not told by anybody, they dissolve. It has happened time and time and time again because they are guided by those provisions of the law that stipulate in sections 85, subsection 1 of the 1991 Constitution that Parliament should dissolve about this period. So it's all about people conforming to the rudiments of the law. If we all know the provisions are clear, I should not be told by anybody. I know when the time comes, I summon those that I should be handing over to, that 2 months to election, I need to vacate this office so that I give people to be managing the affairs of the council until such a time if I'm re-elected, then I come back to the council. I know they'll be able to brief me again as to why did they do within the 2 months period that I had vacated whilst I awaited elections.
In all of this, what do you think should have been done by the ministry, for better cooperation and also collaboration between the ministries and the councils, especially now that the council are being ruled by the ruling party?
So again, the ministry should always be seeing itself as a mother that has so many children from various backgrounds, say with different husbands. Let me put it that way. But then these are your children, they come from you. And so you always be prepared to sit back with them at home. You trash out all of the sticking points. We want to have a consensus that this is how we want to go. How do we see it? What's your take? You discuss the parameters, you discuss the merits and the demerits of it, and then you reach a consensus. And then you come out to the public that as a body corporate, you have agreed. This is what the ECSL is doing. Some things that they do because the provision says you should go back to the political parties, they will tell you it is not wholly rested with us, but then we also seek the opinion of the political parties. So because you are all working together for the good of this nation, serving the people of Sierra Leone. And so it is not like the boss and the servant situation. It's a body corporate. The ministry is only there to oversee the work of the council, not acting as a boss over the council, but as a supervisory role to the council to ensure the policies of government are well articulated at the development level of the local councils. So it should be a way of sitting down, trashing out sticking points within their operations so that they conform to the law. Because you should not walk ultra vires of the law. Somebody can go to court and seek redress. So we don't want to be having situations wherein every time decisions are taken, people run to court because they are in breach of the law. We have to be guided by the law. So for me, I believe many of these ministries and departments also have legal tenants, legal retainers within their structures. Before you take some of these decisions, seek legal advice. Are we acting within the ambit of the law if we make this declaration, if we write to council now say you have to vacate? So again, the reason why the public went viral when this thing vacate was on the social media, some will say they are still legal occupants. And are you asking them, their legality has not expired, and you're asking them to vacate?
And they're elected officials.
They are elected. Because the word vacate in legal terms is for an illegal occupant that you want to move from occupying a place. You can say you have to vacate here. So from the standpoint of the provision, they are still legal to occupy the position because the law says at the expiration of a 5-year based on your very first sitting. So if that first sitting date has not expired, you shouldn't be told to vacate. So this was why we had that hue and cry on the social media. Why should the ministry be telling councils to vacate when they ought not to vacate now? They should be in their offices.
Madam Minister, is next month not too short? I mean, asking them to vacate wherein there's this high demand of accountability.
Thank you very much. I think I will try to really answer your question, but let me first and foremost address just a little bit of things he has raised. In the first place, the word vacate is not an illegal occupant. You need to go back to the dictionary, because when they say vacate, vacate means you have to leave a place that you once occupied. You came to a hotel, you paid, but there's a time to leave the hotel. So they tell you midday, you vacate, and vacate means leave. So it's only the way people are perceiving the word, which I'm really not going to pay attention to, because the meaning is very clear.
Maybe
in
it
the
wasn't
dictionary.
appropriate, that's what he's trying to say.
It's quite appropriate, because you have to leave a place that you once occupied.
Because
that's
every
what
hotel
it is.
is at 12 o'clock that you should move.
Can I finish? Let's have decorum and do this well. He mentioned legal retainer. Yes, he's very correct. And the government has a legal retainer. And we all know it's the Attorney General. And because we are a responsible ministry, and by extension, a responsible government, we don't just do things like that. You see, we have 3 arms of government. We have the legislative arm, we have the executive arm, we have the judiciary. I belong to the executive arm that is under the presidency, because he appoints his ministers. I don't know for my brother which arm he belongs to, but I know that the legislative arms, they do the law. And because I am not a lawyer, I don't know whether my brother here is a lawyer, the judiciary interprets the law, and we implement the law. So when issues like this that are of public interest, and by the way, let me make this clear here, this is not targeting any individual, neither any party. You and I know that councils are all over the country, and they are represented by every political party, particularly those in parliament. So for example, we have C4C councils, we have NGC councils, we have APC councils, we have SLPP councils. So every council, not naming anyone, has to leave at the expiration of their tenure. And that's where we are exactly.
Can I?
So let me finish this. So as I was saying, when the judiciary interprets, we implement. So for things like this, you will imagine that as a responsible government, we should have done due diligence. And of course, yes, we have. What we did is to consult with the Attorney General's office, like he mentioned, the legal retainer. We wrote a letter to say we are not lawmakers, even though we took the bill to Parliament. It is Parliament that has legislated this and assented by His Excellency the President. So every parliamentarian is represented here, and therefore everybody in this country, because parliamentarians represent the people. So this law is valid, right? And so this is the provision. As he rightly read it, I am not a lawyer, but I understand English. It says, all local councils shall stand dissolved at the expiration of a period of 5 years. This is the 5th year. Is anybody arguing here that this is the 5th year?
Yeah, read further. It says
no, I'm coming. No, wait. I'm coming. I'm going. Okay. 5th year of the reign of this particular governance. And then it went further, commencing from the date of the first sitting after the last general election. At any date, not later than any date. So it could be today. You know what that means. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be the eve of whatever. And it says, not later than the date of the dissolution of Parliament in accordance with the provisions of Section 85(1) of 1991 Constitution. Very good. Parliament dissolves in April, right? And like I mentioned, people need to go and pay attention to their political whatever. And the law has given the ministry that implements the law the right to say, and the Attorney General's office has interpreted it accordingly. I have the documents here to say we make sure we give ample time before the close of Parliament so that people can hand over. That's exactly what we have done. But I'm coming. So you now will say, you go comprehensively hand over in 1 month to the council, because there are other institutions that are coming in to support the chief administrators. So the chairpersons, mayors hand over, and those institutions now come to make sure that this is what was handed over to the chief administrator, because we have to be
Is it about stock
taking?
Is it about stock taking or auditing? Because these councils are audited by the Auditor General's office.
No, it's not about stock taking. So it's about, no, it's not about auditing. It's about making sure, because we have a responsibility as a ministry. Like he rightly mentioned, the supervisory role of anybody makes you the boss. So when you are saying they are not a boss, no, we are. Yes, when you supervise people, you are a boss. So that gives you that responsibility to make sure that the comprehensive handing over that is being done is exactly what the CAs are, what the people have handed over, so that, because I hear other people say, oh, so that they will misuse funds, this and that, and that's, no. That is left, like you rightly mentioned, that is left to the Auditor General.
Do you consider
between this period and this period, funds were missing? Because in any case, even now we are having, when chairpersons are in the offices, the Auditor General is still coming with reports that, you know, that are not too, you know, you cannot say it's 100%.
There's still some sort of confusion, I mean, between all of these. I mean, before the issuance of the directive, was there any form of engagement with the councils and the ministry for better understanding?
Absolutely, there was. In fact, the council authorities, the heads of the councils, that's the mayors, the chairpersons, they have an organization they call LOCASU. There's a president for LOCASU. So they came and met with our ministry. My minister was here. We had a meeting in the office, and they brought this issue. And the minister's response was, the bill is in Parliament. So whatever the bill says, because what they were saying, and I told you it was sneaked, in fact, what they were saying was sneaked into the bill, that they wanted to stay until they hand over to the next person after the elections. or as the case may be, hand over to themselves. Then we said at this stage, it is not for us, the ministry, to determine that. It is the law that determines that.
Okay.
So we had a meeting, if you ask that.
So the law, as you clearly read it, it also states 5 years of the first meeting.
Yes.
So these are elected officials.
Yes.
Given mandates by the people who elect them. What could have been wrong to allow them to complete 5 years of the day of their first sitting and then hand over? Because we'll be having elections in June. And hand over to the chief administrators
that question will only be for Parliament.
But you just read the law. It's clearly stated. You're interpreting it.
No, listen. No, you have not completed it. You cannot tell me after the election, where Parliament has said...
No, I'm not saying after the election. I'm saying before the elections.
Yeah, but before the elections.
Yes, so they are first sitting, like he was saying. You have councils whose first sitting will end the 5 years like Parliament will before the elections, right?
Before the elections is today, my brother. Before the elections is tomorrow. So what we are saying, the 1st of March is before the election, and it is before the close of Parliament in April.
No, but the law says...
So there was no stipulated time given to them.
They don't have.
It says. Let me just read again. It also says all local councils shall stand dissolved at the expiration of a period of 5 years, commencing from the date of the first sitting after the last general election, at any date not later than the date of the dissolution of Parliament in accordance with the provisions of Section 85(1) of the 1991 Constitution.
So you see that at any date not later than the dissolution of Parliament.
Okay, so can I address that aspect?
So any date, listen, any date is the 1st of March.
That the ministry wants it to be.
Yes.
Not on the first day. Not on the first day that they had their first sitting.
No, because you had him. Some of them had their first sitting in June. How
it could be 1st June. We're having elections on June 24th.
Because the law says in April when Parliament is closing.
So that's why I wanted to comment on that.
I don't want these things to be tweets. Let's go by the law.
Okay.
I have told you what we have done is to consult with the government's legal retainer, like you mentioned, the Attorney General that advises the President and advises the ministry and the government to interpret what this is.
Okay.
So this is very clear. Like he was saying, people going to court, this and that. Definitely, we had to do due diligence to have this, because at the end of the day, it is the Attorney General that will go and defend this.
Okay.
It took 2 weeks for him to read and come back to us with, other competing priorities. Priorities that he has. So as far as we are concerned, as long as he has given us the go ahead, and people need to what do you call it? People need to hand over in a proper manner, as opposed to 2017 when it was on the 7th. The letter was issued out on the 7th to vacate on the same 7th of December. So we cannot go that path. Okay. We want things to be done in an orderly, processed manner. So at the end of the day, as he said, it was 4 years, and that 4 years elapsed, but now the law has been made and extended it to 5 years. The former government did extend to 5 years, but they didn't wait for the 5th year. So it was in the 4th year, 2017, that they asked people in December to vacate, even before the elections. So like you said, there has been a precedent, and that precedent is a good precedent. You know why? Because it is good practice that people in elected positions, their term comes to an end, especially in our councils. They have to go and concentrate on other electionary things that they have, rather than staying in the council and using the council or its
We'll definitely give you time to speak, but let's usher in Charles. So quickly before you make your statement. I mean, with everything that's happening, does the governance system lack consultation and dialogue?
Well, the government has been dialoguing, consulting, but the depth to which those consultations have been done can be another thing to be discussed. Because you can hold consultations if those consultations have not been deepened in a way to accommodate other opinions that would differ from what you are putting onto the table as an offer. There is another case. So, but albeit the government has been consulting and dialoguing. But again, let's come back to the law. I see, with every respect to Madam Minister, she's using the any other date to justify why they should take the standpoint of dissolving the councils on the 1st of March. But again, she has not paid attention to the very first part of the provision that states at the first sitting, commencing from the first sitting. Now, it means those who had taken office, say by March 30, for example, in 2018, they are few. The councils that took up office between March to first week of April, let's say they were few in number out of the 22 councils. Some councils took up office in April, and some as
in June.
So
and
now,
Parliament dissolves in April. Like she was saying, you can't go beyond after the dissolution.
So that's the point I'm coming
Parliament.
to. That is why this second part of the law says, at any date, not later than the dissolution of Parliament. And let me come, please. You cannot dissolve the... You first look at the first merit of the law that says at the first sitting. And so councils that have sat beyond March 1, you cannot dissolve them because you are infringing on the law. So if you want to reach a buffer, leave it at the expiration of Parliament's own term. So you satisfy all the councils that came into effect in 2018.
But there is nothing illegal as well to have done it before then, because it's provided for in what we just said as well.
No, sir. That's what I'm...
So basically, this is...
The any date means...
So basically, Kev, let me just add. So basically, this is about who interprets and how it's interpreted.
So people have right to go to the judiciary, to court, to have interpretation from the court. Because...
So meaning the law itself is not too clear?
Not, well, it is...
Based on who interprets it,
depends
and how it's
on the
interpreted.
standpoint from whence you are reading the law, and then it cannot be clear.
Okay.
Yeah? But from an independent observer, looking at the law, you are first giving the first preference of the law, because it said the 5 years commencing from the first sitting. So if a council, for example, came into being on the 20th of March 2018, now could not dissolve by 20th March 2023, now you go to this second option. But this council cannot stay beyond Parliament's own lifespan. That is what this part is saying.
But
so it can dissolve at any time, not beyond. No,
it can be dissolved before Parliament is dissolved.
If you listen carefully to my submission, first you look at the law. The law says your first sitting is where your 5-year commences. So if your first sitting is on the 20th of March 2018, it means by 2018, 2023, you should dissolve. So now, for every reason, if my council is to dissolve on the 20th of March 2023, and the council does not dissolve on 20th March 2023, then now you come to this second option. You cannot exist beyond the term of Parliament. This is what this provision is saying. You can go 1 week, 2 weeks, but not beyond Parliament's own lifespan. So it means every council must dissolve at the dissolution of Parliament that is provided for in Section 85, subsection 1 of the 1991 Constitution.
Okay.
Yes.
The minister wants to say something.
You know why my brother is a little bit confused?
No, I'm not confused.
Because
I'm not.
He has not done due diligence. Because normally you will go and do your fact finding, like he said, with the judiciary, and then you come with a position that, oh, after consultations with our legal retainers or so, this is where this is. The reason why I am very straightforward is because we have done due diligence as a ministry and have gone to the Attorney General and seek what we normally would call concurrence or seek legal advice. You understand what I mean? So that is why I am very settled, because I know that this is done because at the end of the day, like he said, is the way you want to interpret it. And as an individual who is not a lawyer, you can interpret it anyhow. That is why they tell you that the judiciary is the ones that interpret the law that Parliament makes. You and I will sit here for the rest of this day. We will get nowhere. We will get nowhere. It's because we are both not in the judiciary. We are not lawyers. You understand? I only told you that I understand English, even though I'm not a lawyer. And that's the point you were also emphasizing, that it says any dates before the dissolution of Parliament. So this emphasis on the first sitting cannot hold. The first sitting, yes, but it didn't say, the law didn't say at the same time when they had the first sitting. No, the law said before Parliament according to the Constitution. So the Parliament dissolves in April. We want due diligence. We want people, we want a more procedural and process thing. So we want people to hand over, you know, at their own time. So they take time, have their meetings with their chief administrator, their core staff, even with councillors. They put all their achievements, their challenges, and everything together and hand it over. That is the more a proper way to do things, so that whoever is coming, even if you are the one coming back, because don't forget that some of them have just done one term and they are going for a second term. Even if you are the one coming back, you know exactly where you stopped and you will take it from there.
But the point, Marina, quickly, but the point he's making as well, you have councils that their first sitting will be by March, right? So what could have been wrong for the ministry to allow them?
No, we cannot do that. That's an author of confusion. We cannot have...
So is the ministry...
No, listen.
So no, Madam Minister. Is it that you're just interpreting the law in your own convenience? Say this is what we want,
it's
not what the law clearly states.
It's not my own convenience.
No, I mean the ministry, not you personally.
No, I know. Even it's not even the ministry. It's based on what the advice of the Attorney General's office, because you know we are not lawyers. That's why I told you. I said we have, and he also alluded to the fact that the government has been consultative. That's how we do things, really, because we believe that is a proper thing. We have not only been consultative with the Attorney General's office, with Parliament, with all those that matter here, including even the mayors and the chairpersons. So at the end of the day, what this law is very clear about is that before Parliament closes, we need to ask them to set aside and give in. Even the Attorney General did mention here that time must be given for them to do proper handing over. And that time has been given enough, because this letter came out, I think, on the 8th of February, and they are to hand over and leave office by the 1st of March.
Madam Minister, we'll definitely come back to you because there's an issue between the chief administrator and the mayor as well. But let's quickly hear
so I just wanted to make a humble observation. Madam Chair, Madam Minister kept saying before Parliament dissolves. The law is saying it's not prescribing before. It says you cannot stay in power beyond the Parliament's own lifespan. So it means if Parliament is dissolving in April, you can dissolve in April, but you cannot go beyond April. Like in the case of the Freetown City Council that started its own first sitting in June. You cannot say in this case. That's why the law has two parts to it. The first one is giving you from your first sitting. But then it goes at the B part to say, but not beyond. In case you had your own first sitting, say, beyond the elections date, it is when Parliament dissolves that you can dissolve your own council.
So those who had their own in June can dissolve before or during Parliament
dissolution. So that's why I proffered the ministry should have looked at a buffer. Now, some councils, the law knew there were 22 councils, yet they said at your first sitting. And the law also, the drafters of the law knew all councils did not take off from the same point. Yet they said first day. So the ministry should have reached at a buffer. Now, let's make it comfortable. The law still provides for dissolution at the dissolution of Parliament's own term of office. So we can base it on the dissolution date of Parliament, and we dissolve everybody. So Parliament is dissolved in April, councils are dissolved in April. We have a level playing field. They all go back to their constituents to do their campaigns.
The reason why that is not possible, I'm coming. The reason why that is not possible is because you want to give time for people to properly hand over.
Like you rightfully mentioned,
institutions. No, but it's the chief administrators you hand over to.
But they're working. But aren't the chief administrators working with the mayors and district chairpersons?
Yes, but can I tell you something?
They are just like the clerk of parliament that administers parliament.
There are so many things that are in the possession of mayors and chairpersons need to be handed over.
But the fact that they are not even seeing eye to eye, how does that pan out?
No, well, I don't know about them not seeing eye to eye, because as far as I'm concerned, our ministry has done due diligence in making sure that chief administrators and their mayors or chairpersons work amicably. That has to be a report that comes to our office. And as I sit here, I haven't had that report.
Madam Minister, you are an appointed official. You are not elected.
Absolutely.
But you are not told to vacate or hand over before elections to the permanent secretary so that they can hand over to whoever comes after you. You continue to be a minister until after an election, possibly if the president wishes, and you hand over if you're being changed or there's a change in government.
So that is different.
No, I'm just saying, you're saying they need to hand over to a chief administrator because they need to hand over. But the chief administrators, like you have the permanent secretaries, are the people who've been working with these people all this while. So why should they hand over to
like you rightly mentioned, I am not going to be elected. I'm not going to do campaign. Listen. Don't confuse the two. I am not going to be doing campaign for me to be elected. These people are going to do campaign to be elected. And I started by telling you that some of them have already started, they have already been given positions as chairpersons in their different political parties. And they are now using the council, which is a public space that is for everybody, to favor a particular political party. And because we don't want that, and it is not about just one political party, mind you, I told you earlier, it's general, it's everybody, all political parties are involved here. So it's not targeting any particular political, it's for national interest.
I think we need to
take... sure that is why in 2017, they were also asked to step aside. The only difference is that in 2017, it was today for today. On the 7th of December,
let's quickly take some messages.
Let's take some messages. Let's take some messages.
And I'll take this first message from TJ Mans. He says, Madam Deputy Minister, have you handed over? And do you have...
Yes, Usfriend Kamara says, the real issue is our constitution is a non-specific constitution with terminology defects that are prone to subjective and objective opinions. The constitution needs robust review. Cognition of negative bias results from the rule book structure.
And Aminu Majid says this will undermine the functions of the city.
And he went further to say the provision also allowed the council to expire the same day as parliament. Depends on the government in power.
And Alaji A.H. Jalo says, one of the greatest problems we face in this country are caused by CSOs. They are confusing themselves and some citizens. The law is clear. If you don't understand, go to courts and seek redress.
Musa Shaka Kamara says, please let's don't politicize this issue. The constitution makes it clear that it should vacate before parliament close, and parliament will be closing in March. Parliament will be closing in April. This person is getting it wrong. That's the message. I think I could stop it there.
And Aminu Majid said the provision also allows the council to expire the same day as parliament.
I think those are the messages we could take because of time.
Quickly, as we try to wrap up, Charles, we cannot avoid the fact that there is an issue between the CA and the mayor as well. And how will the mayor entrust, their political projects and programs in the hands of the CAs for implementation in their absence, when they are supposed to vacate their office?
So when you say the mayor and the CA, which of the mayors?
The Freetown mayor.
For me, whether there is a good working relationship or not, for as much as the law provides and any working principle dictates, you have to work with your colleague. Whether you like the person or not, as long as you are working together for the good of the institution, there should be an understanding on working principles. You may not reason with me personally from personal times, but when it comes to the work, we have to work. So if the work says, I should hand this over to you if I'm leaving, it doesn't matter who you are, I have to hand it over to you. But again, it has to be a prescription of the law. So we always want to work within the ambit of the law. One of the texters said, I am confused. I'm not confused because I was speaking to the law. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a scholar. So I understand what I'm reading. I understand what I'm debating here. Yeah? I'm not a novice to it. The point is, if the law says at the first sitting, that is what we are arguing here. And so, but then the 22 councils did not start from the same point. Hence my submission of, go back to the second part of the law that says, well, you cannot live beyond the parliament's lifetime. You can dissolve. And for goodness sake, these two institutions have slight commonality in their administration. The parliament is administered by the clerk of parliament. Okay. And the councils are administered by the chief minister. And so when parliamentarians leave, they leave the parliament's administration in the hands of the clerk of parliament. And so when the councils, the councillors and the mayors and their chair will leave, they leave the administration of the council in the hands of their chief administrators. So
you are recommending that it should have been the dissolution of parliament. They should have dissolved councils.
Okay. Thank you very much. Because of time, we will be able to...
The reason why that is not possible, like he rightly mentioned, parliament cannot dissolve today. I know people have been used to that. The 7th, you hand over the same 7th. No, it's not possible. It's not, I mean, it's not even humanly. You need to give people time to walk around and put their reports comprehensively, as it's rightly stated there.
That could have been enough time from now to April so that they can put their reports together.
One of the texters was saying they should leave on the day parliament is dissolved. It's not possible. For us, anyway, for us as the ministry that is supervising the councils, the best way for us, because even us, we have to do our handing over. Okay. You have to understand that. So at the end of the day, what the councils present is also part of our own report. Okay. So that is why we have to give that enough time for them to hand it over, and we take stock, and then everything works.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Need to pay attention to their elections.
We'll definitely have you here. We'll definitely have you here next time to discuss about this, to educate the people more about this particular thing being discussed. Well, this is where we end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. Our quote for today says, "There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic, not popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right." And it comes from Martin Luther